Chapter 301 Hypocrisy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What is my plan to become king? Max wondered as he had to make the most important pitch of his life in front of Vega today. Max always wanted to be the vampire king, and he did have a plan to do so, but his plan was difficult and with a lot of ifs and buts. There were a million different crossroads in his future where all his efforts until that point could go to dust if he failed. However, while he had utmost belief in himself, it was hard to convince a god like Vega to have belief in this plan of his as well. What do I do, Grandpa Drax? How do I tell my plan to Vega the best way possible? Max said internally as he turned to the old AI for answers. I think you already know the answer to this question, kid. You have grown watching the most charismatic man give convincing speeches. Just say it like your brother would. Drax replied as he gave Max the best possible answer according to his assessment of Max's memories. Listening to Drax's answer, Max's pupils dilated as a lot of his brother's speeches ran through his mind as he got into the character. Whenever his brother spoke, there was an air of calm around him. Every word he spoke was spoken slowly and clearly. He controlled the crowd with his slow pacing and then slowly increased it as he increased the pitch of his voice to heighten their emotions. There was always a confident smile on his face when he said something ridiculous, and his hand gestures were always synonymous to his wordings. Although Max was not his brother, he could try to imitate him to the best of his abilities and make this terrific vocational skill of his brother's, his own in the process. My plan, Patriarch Vega, is simple. To many it may seem far-fetched and impossible, but for me I have absolute faith in myself and my ability to get the job done, Max said while looking straight into Vega's eyes as he spoke slowly and with confidence. My girlfriend at the moment is Asiva Paredes, the only daughter of Cole Paredes and still the legal heir of the Paredes clan. Together with her, I plan to take back the lands the Paredes have lost to the Kingsman clan and become a lord in the process. As you know, lordship in our vampire community is a reward that is given by our king and can only be earned through merits, which is why I've joined the military to gather the required merits needed for me to be eligible for this reward. The first concrete step in my plan to become king is hence becoming a lord and taking over the lands of the Kingsman clan, Max said with enthusiasm and then paused as he waited for Vega's reply. Understandable, becoming a lord will bring you inside the system. It will make things hard for you through bureaucracy but will also make things hard for Regis because he would need to deal with you legally, Vega said as he gestured for Max to continue. After becoming lord, I will develop my lands at unprecedented speed to rise through the clan rankings. Like you said, I have connections with the One Knights and the true elites, but what you don't know is that I also have connections with elves and angels. I will use my connections to grow my land's economic prowess at speed, make immigration laws more flexible to harbor lots of warriors and expand my military and population. In the end, I shall legally declare war on clans above me for resources and planets as within 3 years I plan to become top 10, Max said as Vega shook his head from side to side trying to estimate the validity of the statement he was making. Difficult but possible, I would say it is extremely ambitious, but still within the realm of possibility. Vega said as he gestured for Max to continue. Afterwards my plan is to continue to rise through the rankings while increasing my personal strength, that by the time I'm tier 8 my clan will be ranked number 1 and I will legally challenge Regis Aurelius for the throne, Max said as Vega raised his hand for him to stop speaking as he looked disappointed in Max. You are a fool if you think you can ever reach the heights of tier 7 or tier 8. Even from the most exceptional tier 3 warriors, maybe 1/1000000000000 of the most exceptional warriors will become a god. From those maybe 1/1000 will become tier 7 and from those maybe 1 will become a tier 8 god in 1,000 years. If becoming god was as easy as growing cabbage, then would everyone in the universe not be a monarch? But guess what, from every exceptional warrior from every race, the number of monarchs can still be counted on one's fingers. My Titus clan, with all the gods we have, with all the years we have put into developing our strength, are still struggling to get to number 2. I understand where your plan origins from, because it is the same plan I have to dethrone Regis, but I'm at tier 7 and my clan is at number 3. For you this road is too far-fetched for me to invest in you, Vega said as she shut down. Max's dreams, Vega thought he was being reasonable, however, he never expected Max to retort against him so violently. I'm sorry Patriarch Vega, but you are a hypocrite, Max said without flinching as Vega raised an eyebrow listening to this comment. You ask me, how would I become king? Let me ask you, if I ever become king, will it not be when I'm at least tier 7 or tier 8? If you don't believe that I can reach those heights, then how can I convince you I will be king? You say my plan is the same as yours, which means it's a solid plan, but of course our starting points are different because you are born the son of the previous vampire king Rumi Titus, you inherited the Titus clan, were number 5 on the clan list when you ascended to the throne. I am born the son of Mahendra Rajput, a tier 0 man who died of natural causes before ever experiencing the awakening. I've gained everything through scratch, my bloodline, my abilities, my class, my powers. Unlike you, I have to scratch and claw for every bit of power that I have today. I will be king, I'm sure of it, because it is my destiny to be king. If the Titus clan is with me in my journey, I will cherish you as my allies, if you are against me, I will become your worst nemesis, Max lashed out at Vega as he voiced his inner frustrations at the Patriarch. The man knew perfectly well how difficult it was to be king, how ridiculous it was for a newbie tier 3 vampire to say he would be king one day. However, he still expected a serious answer, yet when he received one, he dismissed it for being far-fetched, it was nothing by hypocrisy on his part. You have some balls to say this to my face, Max Rajput, especially considering that I can kill you on the spot without me needing to lift a finger, Vega said as he admonished Max for forgetting his position as an ant in front of Vega. Then do it, kill me, I dare you to kill me, I'm weak, I'll admit it, but my background is not. My friends are not weak, neither is my family. My father was nothing, he had no standing on earth nor inside the universe, but my brother was Rudra Rajput, he was Shikuni the undefeated and throughout his journey he has gained countless allies forged through blood. Even with my brother dead, the bonds he formed are still strong as ever, so if you kill me here today, the Titus clan will suffer, I promise you that. The Titus clan will suffer way more than it will gain from licking Regus Aurelius's ass, and someday, someone will come knocking on your door for revenge. It will be one of my nephews, it will be one of my friends, my master Johnny English, but someone will come for you and will give you the most horrible death you could imagine. If you think I'm an ant and you can just trample me, then do it, because frankly I'm done with your interview and your questions. I respect you, but now it's time for you to choose if you are with me or against me. Either way, you have no leverage over me because I have prepared myself to die. Max said as he dropped all pretenses of morality and respect and talked his heart out in front of Vega. The man was playing games with Max, he was deliberately trying to gauge his depth and his attitude. Such behavior was shown to criminals and not to allies. Hence Max was done with taking his shit. Staring into Vega's eyes unabashedly, Max awaited his judgment. Chapter 302 All Alone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Vega did not like the tone which Max used to address him. He did not like the fact that his fear in the little man's heart was less than the pride he had in himself, which made him lash out at Vega. He was not afraid of retaliation for killing Max. Sure, Hazriel would hate him, maybe his brother's allies, as he said, would cut economic ties with his territory and he would lose some of his economic prowess, but he was assured that he could weather through that storm. He was a tier 7 god with a very powerful army, nobody could provoke him easily, not even the monarchs. To take his land, they would need to sacrifice a lot and make enemies with many vampire clans who were close allies with him. It would be troublesome, but it was not a deterrent for Vega to spare Max. Only if his brother was alive and at the helm of the true elite's kingdom, would Vega truly be scared to touch Max, because Shikuni the Terrifying was one madman no one wanted to cross. Yet, knowing all these facts, Vega did not want to kill Max for one simple reason, which was the fact that his hatred for Regus Aurelius was far more terrifying than his annoyance at Max's attitude. You are sure conceited boy to call me a hypocrite. I'm stating facts here. If you think becoming a god is easy, you are in for a huge reality check. I'm not scared of your background, not scared of your newborn nephews or weakling friends, I can crush them with my eyes closed. The only reason I'm sparing you today, is because my hatred for Regus Aurelius in this world trumps everything. Your existence will make him suffer, just him knowing that you are alive and kicking will give him sleepless nights. Whether or not you can become king is a secondary matter, what you can do is bring misery to Regus Aurelius, and for that reason and that reason only I'm going to give you a chance at life. Vega said as he flicked his finger and sent Max flying towards the shut door of the courtroom as Max collided against the door with force and fell on his knees completely winded. 1200, you listen to me now boy, and you listen to me well. I'm going to become your greatest backer from now on, so despite your rash attitude towards me in private, in public you will behave like I'm your long-lost father, you understand? Vega instructed Max in a stern tone as Max nodded despite having the wind knocked out of his lungs. Today at the banquet, we will raise the issue of why your immediate superior rejected your request for reinforcements on grounds of insufficient forces, when we have hundreds of thousands of soldiers deployed on the planet Mar-a-Lago. We will try to frame Regus Aurelius in front of all the clan leaders for being selfish and deliberately wanting to continue the conflict at borders so that he can have an upper hand over every military in every clan. Naturally the blame will roll down to one of his men who will become scapegoats of the event, but it will leave Regus exposed and vulnerable when I make my move against him. If I do my job correctly, he will ask you for a reward of your choice, to save face in front of all clan leaders, and you will choose the opportunity to attack Kingsman clan and become their lord if you win as your reward. Regus will have to agree, and then I will reward you with 50,000 Titus clan troops to start your army. Consider it my reward for your cause to become lord, and don't you ever call me a hypocrite again. If you want to become king someday, then today will be a very valuable lesson for you, as you will see and learn that not every battle is fought on the battlefield and politics is as big of a part in becoming a king as is military might and good governance. Many clans will try curry favor with the rising star, try to know your background, but you must stick close to the Titus clan, and send all the credit of your victory our way. Impress me thoroughly, keep your mind open and use that glib tongue of yours to frustrate Regus Aurelius. Do everything right and at the end I might just forgive you for the fiasco today, Vega said as he snapped his fingers and retrieved an artifact from his inventory. Here boy, wear this ring, Vega said as he tossed the ring towards Max, who felt confused as to why he was given an artifact. Concealer ring, divine. A ring forged by the dwarf god of blacksmithing himself for the vampire king Rumi Titus as a sign of friendship. Gives the bearer complete concealment from all inspecting eyes up till tier 9. Max trembled as he put on the ring. It was a divine artifact, one that would hide his stats from even a monarch like Regus Aurelius. You have too many secrets that will be detrimental if Regus Aurelius finds out. So along with your mask, wear this ring for tonight's banquet. That way you won't be exposed, Vega said as Max bowed in front of him respectfully for him to be this caring. I'm only lending it to you, this is my father's priceless treasure, you are not getting this forever, Vega said, making it clear that this favor was for the banquet tonight only. I'll make sure to return it to you without losing it, Max said, assuring Vega that he will keep it safe. Fine, go now, a tailor will be waiting outside for you, go get clothes sewn that fit you, something regal, something matching your future stature as lord. And remember, when people ask you about how you did the impossible and captured the fort with 5 men, don't mention that you kids have dragons as pets. While I have a strong heart and don't care, there will be many low-level clan leaders who don't have the luxury to buy a decent flying pet. A dragon is basically a dream for them. Don't hurt their feelings unnecessarily. Vega said as he dismissed Max. For now, I'll keep that in mind, Max said as he left the courtroom and was immediately escorted by the royal tailor to the stitching room where his measurements were taken and work was started on his clothes for the banquet tonight. Max had a lot to ponder upon after he left the courtroom as he realized that tonight the banquet was going to be a much more complicated event than he ever imagined. High-level politics, fake comments, backroom discussions, alliances, everything would be happening at once and he would be at the center of it all. He would finally meet with the vampire king himself, the infamous Regus Aurelius, the Tier 8 monarch, alongside all the major clan leaders of every vampire clan. While today he was only going to the banquet as a minor figure, but one day he was going to host the banquet as the king. He was sure of it. Meanwhile, at the shrine of the unnamed god, "Master, I have some news about the lines of fate, they are shifting fast," Hazriel said as she waited patiently in front of the shrine of the unnamed god inside heaven. The unnamed god was the teacher of all 7 archangels, including the fallen angel Lucifer. Across the entire universe, there were only 2 shrines of the unnamed god. One was inside heaven, accessible by only the 6 archangels living inside heaven. And the other was on the planet of life, where Ben-Yeager resided. While every god's shrine was special, the unnamed god's shrine was the only way to have a direct communication with the god, as the hermit god had no permanent residence where one could find him, and the only way to contact him was through these shrines. "I have noticed the fate lines changing, my child. A major part of it is because of my future master Shikuni. I think he has already broken past the Tier 8 barrier while reconstructing his body. I fear there will be mayhem in the universe on an unprecedented scale the day he finally returns," a voice replied as Hazriel immediately identified it as the voice of her master. "While a major part of it is because of your chosen reincarnator, a minor part of it is because of mine. I don't know what choice he made today, but his future has become murky. I can't see his path clearly anymore," Hazriel complained as she felt anxious because of not being able to peer into Max's future. "If you can't look into his future, then his karmic value has reached a point where you can no longer manipulate his life. From this point onwards, consider him to be on his own. Rejoice, your student has successfully graduated," the voice replied as Hazriel felt uneasy hearing the reply. The time for her to meet him again was growing closer and closer, yet at this critical juncture she could now no longer look at Max's future, which meant that she could no longer reinforce his choices to nudge him in the right direction like she did by writing a letter to the Titus clan leader Rumi Titus. If she had not written that letter, Max would need to go through many difficulties to reach his lordship. However, Hazriel mediated to make his path easier, however, with her no longer having that ability. He was truly on his own now. Chapter 303 The show begins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The night of the banquet, I can't believe Max is late to his own party. Just how long will his meeting with Patriarch Vega last? Sebastian questioned as he felt completely lost in the banquet with his military uniform enjoying drinks, while stronger military officers and royal guards stood on watch as security for the banquet. "I think they will bring him about 5 minutes from now, since some of the higher dignitaries have started to arrive," Anna replied as she scanned the room and recognized few high-profile names now entering. The patriarch of the St. Maximus clan, Sam St. Maximus, alongside his family. Asiva instantly straightened up hearing Sam St. Maximus's name, as the clan leader of the 7th-ranked clan walked into the banquet alongside his wife and 2 children. The lower-ranking clan officials bowed in respect, while the clan leaders went up to greet him personally as the entire atmosphere stirred with his entry. While the St. Maximus clan was not the most powerful warrior clan, it was the clan that nobody wanted on their bad side. The St. Maximus knew too much about too many people and could pull a lot of strings if they wished to. The Sweeper clan was not to be underestimated. Asiva courteously went to greet Sam as while she felt no real attachment to the clan, in her worst time it was the St. Maximus who had came to her aid, for which she was truly grateful. The venue of the banquet was a large celebratory hall inside the royal palace, which was covered in expensive decorations all around. A large blue rhodium crystal ornament hung from the ceiling displaying the astonishing wealth of the Titus clan, as blue rhodium was considered one of the most priceless crystals in the universe, with a single piece going upwards of 1 billion gold coins. For the Titus clan to hang an ornament worth hundreds of billions of gold coin in a public banquet hall was a testament to their stable foundations and incredible wealth, as anyone standing underneath it felt intimidated. Now entering. The hero for whom this banquet has been organized, the rising star of Titus clan military, Captain Raven, the doorman announced Max's entry as Max walked in ultra-luxurious white robes with gold lining. Asiva was stooped for a moment looking at her majestic boyfriend as her heart started to beat at an incredibly fast rate. The robes he wore were tailored to perfection, the soft material did not stick to his skin and folded perfectly over his muscular curves. One could make the shape of his extraordinary biceps from the way the robe was designed, as while it was loose the length was a bit short around the sleeves, as instead of a full traditional robe that covered the full length of the arm, Max wore two garments, one long glove covering his palms and forearm, while his robe only covered half his upper arm like a t-shirt. The robe was white, while the gloves were golden, giving Max a very fashionable look which complemented the embroidery on the robe. To say that Max looked handsome was a grave understatement, as he had the aura and charisma of a young lord today. Everything about Max oozed royalty, as he did not look like the wild uncultured war captain at all, but rather a noble scholar. The only downside to his dressing was his concealer mask which hid his pretty face. Max did not show his face in public even today, sticking to his principles of anonymity. His entry garnered a lot of attention from the dignitaries present, as within seconds he was swarmed by a whole bunch of people he did not know. Asiva wondered if she should rush to Max's aid, knowing that socializing was his weakness. However, when she saw Max handling himself perfectly well, she was pleasantly surprised. Max replied to everyone patiently as he laughed and mingled with the upper class as if he was one of them. "Captain Raven, is it true that you killed 1,000 barbarians with nothing but your bare fists? Of everything I heard about you, this one I find hard to believe," one aristocrat asked Max. "Of course not, I only killed about 400 with my bare hands, the rumors are exaggerated," Max replied casually, making the aristocrat gasp in shock as he seemed extremely impressed with Max's prowess. "Captain Raven, is it true that you decided to take on the fort alone because the higher-ups won't send you reinforcements?" Another aristocrat, which was planted by Vega, asked as everyone became silent when this question was asked. Max knew this was his moment to start with tonight's act as he said, "Yes, sadly it's true. After I won the northern fortress with my men, the territory I controlled was larger, I had suffered some minute losses in the fight and needed new troops for the upkeep of the territory as well as launching an offensive on the southern fort. However, the Major rejected my request because we don't have enough frontline troops to spare. I was depressed about this situation for a while, but then I got a letter from Patriarch Vega himself motivating me for my success on the northern fort win and advising me to continue with my ambition to win the southern fortress no matter the odds, because even if I died for my people and my clan, it's a worthy death." Max's reply caused a stir amongst the nobility, as while they were impressed by Max's bravery, their minds started to wonder how the hell did the extremely militarized zone of the frontline planets not have enough personnel to be deployed to maintain newly won provinces. They did not buy this bullshit, they could smell that something was fishy. Looking at the plan moving in the desired direction, Max smiled as he excused himself from the group. Tonight was a big night, and he needed to repeat this performance several times until every attendant knew that the Aurelius clan denied his request for aid. Chapter 304. He's Here. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Now entering. Patriarch of the Titus clan, the host of today's banquet, the crown jewel to the vampire army, the powerful, the magnificent, Vega Titus with his wife, Vega entered the banquet and looked around to check if people gave him face by arriving before he did, and just like he expected, everyone except the Caesar clan and the Aurelius clan were on time. Everyone flooded towards him to greet him and ask him questions, and after exchanging a few pleasantries they began popping him questions about Max's words as to how his request for aid was denied and how the actual situation on Ground Zero really was. Vega was very pleased with Max when he heard the direction of the chatter, as he did his best to add fuel to the fire, just like he intended. "Lord Vega, we spend so many resources to support the war on the 3 frontline planets, the hero Captain Raven's confession this time is most concerning. I'm afraid." Ron Evra of the Evra clan, ranked 11th on power scale, said to Vega, "I know, I've been critical about this situation for a while now. Although we spend billions of coins and send hundreds of thousands of troops to the frontline planets, we are still understaffed. Such misappropriation of resources, it's a grave issue. No wonder we made no progress over the years. Seems like the upper management doesn't want to make progress on the battle lines. If I didn't know better, I'd say they deliberately did so, to keep the war ongoing and the coffers of the various clans bleeding. Vega said, as although he played innocent, everyone knew that his words were just a facade and he was really throwing allegations towards Regus Aurelius. According to Vega, this was entirely Regis's ploy to let all clans bleed strength for the betterment of the crown so that they could never rise in rebellion against it. Although he explicitly did not say so, his words hinted towards this possibility. Now entering. The leader of the strongest clan amongst all vampires, the powerhouse and right-hand man of the vampire king Regus Aurelius, Julian Caesar. All chatter regarding Vega's allegations stopped once Julian entered the room. Just how the hostility between Vega and Regus was not hidden from anyone, everyone similarly knew that Julian was Regis's guard dog. Nobody wanted to talk ill of the royal clan with him around, as he was famously known for biting anyone who was critical about Regus Aurelius. After greeting the various gods that came up to him, Julian looked at Vega with open hatred and disgust as the two shook hands in the most awkward way possible while staring into each other's eyes. I suggest you restrain your aura, there are children in this banquet, Vega said as he reminded Vega to not go overboard and spread his aura across the room to suppress everyone. I suggest you restrain your mouth, it's been yapping too much lately, Julian said in response as he retracted his aura completely. Vega did not take the comment to heart. He was used to this hostility from Julian, as although both of them were tier 7, Julian was not as formidable of a fighter as Vega. I suggest you restrain your nose then, it's too far up the king's ass, Vega said as the awkward handshake turned into a contest of who could break whose bones and tolerate most pain. Surely such hostility is unnecessary, darling. Lord Julian, please enjoy this evening, Vega's wife said as she interjected to make the madness stop. If the lady says so, I shall obey, Julian eventually said as he stopped applying force to the handshake and let go while giving dirty looks to Vega. Vega wanted to make a sly remark but he felt his back being pinched by his wife, so he wisely decided to shut up and let the matter go. Look honey, Captain Raven's here, doesn't he look absolutely stunning? The Lady Titus said as Vega turned his eyes to throw a glance at Max and said, not bad, you look like a hero from the Titus clan. Vega's comment brought Julian's attention on Max as he threw an inspect spell on Max only to be shocked when he could not see his stats. Julian tried again, and then yet again but failed all 3 times as he realized that something was definitely fishy. Captain, would you mind removing your mask? I really want to take a look at the hero's face, Julian said as he went over to where Max was standing and offered his hand to be shaken. I'm humbled that the Lord wishes to see my unremarkable face, but if possible I'd humbly like to decline this request. I've decided to not show my face in public till I've got revenge for a dead family member, Max said politely as he gave a well-thought reason as to why he did not wish to show his face. Max knew if he said that his face was burnt or hideous or scarred, it would not serve as a deterrent for high-ranking lords, who did not give a fuck about such things, but now that the reason was emotional, if Julian pushed him too much about it he would come off as a dick, hence he had no choice but to restrain himself. Sebastian silently clapped for Max looking at his performance. His brother was getting better and better at lying through his teeth, he was becoming a true despicable aristocrat. I see. Well, we all have our own circumstances, don't we? But would you mind explaining as to why I'm unable to check your status bar? I'm tier 7, no matter how strong you are or what abilities you have you should not be able to hide from my gaze. It worries me that I can't inspect you, Julian said as his words brought the entire room's gazes on Max. Many tier 5 powerhouses and tier 6 gods had tried to similarly scan Max, however, everyone returned empty-handed. While it was a buzzkill, they did not have the balls to call Max out on it like Julian did, but now that the ball was rolling, they were interested in the results as well. What are you worried about as Caesar? Everyone joining the Titus clan military has to sign a system contract and reveal everything about their personal stats. You think I will let a suspicious person be the receiver of a red velvet banquet? Do you look down on the Titus clan that much? Vega said as his questions forced Julian into a corner, he had no option but to back off now. Very well, you guess everyone has their secrets, Julian said as he let out a deep sigh and then faked his congratulations towards Max for making great contributions for the crown. Max felt uncomfortable talking to Julian. Every question the other party asked was a trap, every movement he made was threatening. He was giving Max a hard time, but just when Max thought the evening was tough, the announcement from the doorman sent goosebumps down his spine. All kneel. Now entering. The Son of the Universe, the King of Kings, the Vampire Monarch, the Protector, the Annihilator, the Wise, the Wicked, the man who rules Ixtal, King Regus Aurelius. / bonus chapter for hitting the GT target, good job everyone, / Chapter 305 Meeting the Princes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. All kneel. Now entering. The Son of the Universe, the King of Kings, the Vampire Monarch, the Protector, the Annihilator, the Wise, the Wicked, the man who rules Ixtal, King Regus Aurelius. The moment this announcement was made, everyone in the room including Vega dropped to one knee. Max did not know why, but both his hearts began beating violently as he reluctantly bent his knee and expectantly looked towards the door. A few seconds later, a man no taller than 6 feet walked into the room with a domineering aura unparalleled to anything Max had ever seen. Regus Aurelius was lean, his hair was cut short and clean, he had no beard but a thick mustache and had fire-red eyes that looked like they could see through anything and everything. He wore red robes the same shade as his eyes and had the insignia of the Aurelius clan embroidered all over. His presence alone demanded absolute obedience as from the second he walked into the room, to the moment he sat on the seat of honor specially prepared for him, there was pin-drop silence in the room with nobody even daring to breathe loudly. If someone looked at Regus from an aesthetic sense, he did not look jacked at all, he did not have the bodybuilder physique that most military men who prioritize strength had, but rather had a lean physique like that of professional fighters. Unlike the terrifyingly tall opponents that Max had faced all his life, Regus was actually not that intimidating at all. However, from the way he carried himself anybody could make out that he was not someone you could fuck around with easily. He had the eyes of an overlord, sharp, wise and all-encompassing as a single glance of his was enough to send shivers down the spine of even a tier 6 god. The biggest proof of his presence was the fact that Max did not even notice his wife and children who had entered the banquet hall after Regus Aurelius until the queen took her seat beside Regus a full 2 minutes after Regus took his. Today Regus had entered the banquet with his second and third son, after the banishment of his first son. At ease, Regus said in a shrill voice tone after he scanned the room and was satisfied that everyone had shown him enough respect. Everyone got back to their knees as Vega walked up to Regus Aurelius and kneeled before him to officially greet him at the banquet. "Thank you for gracing this banquet with your presence, my king," Vega said through gritted teeth, as although he did not mean a single word coming out of his mouth, he respected the old customs enough to follow them even though he disliked them. 40 years and we still do this facade, it amuses me every time, Vega, but well, the honor is mine to be invited, Regus said as he patted Vega on his shoulders. Regus had despicably chosen to drink Rumi Titus's blood before sitting on his throne after beating the Titus clan forces on Ixtal, and it was exactly this disrespect to the dead king that did not let Vega sleep at night. The relationship between Vega and Regus was impossible to mend because of this one act, and it was also the reason why Vega was so excited about Max, as the last words of his father were not about him, or the Titus clan, but rather about the primordial vampire who would one day kill Regus Aurelius. "Oh Sabrina, how are you?" Regus said as he spotted Vega's wife, and began socializing pleasantly with her. If there was one thing that was respectable amongst all vampire clans, it was that they kept their women and children outside of personal grudges, politics and enmity. If the child was not male, not above 18 years of age, he was generally not prosecuted for the crimes of the father, whereas the females were rarely ever brought in the midst of conflicts. Despite the tough relationship between the Titus clan and the Aurelius and Caesar clan, both Julian and Regus gave face to Vega's wife and treated her with utmost respect, whereas Vega did the same with their wives as well. In this clan social structure of the vampires, the survival and blossom of clans was the priority of every clan leader, and to ensure that infighting never destroyed the whole community, the ancient kings designed the vampire society and culture in a way that conflict between men did not spill onto the innocents and did not destroy the lineage of the clans. The women were objects of worship, whereas the children were allowed to live carefree. From the moment Regis arrived, Max never once took his eyes off the monarch, noticing everything from how he talked, to how he laughed in great detail until he was suddenly interrupted by two young boys. "Captain Raven, I'm Lucius Aurelius. It's a pleasure to meet you, Felix Aurelius. My mother praises you a lot," the two boys said as they extended their hands for Max to shake. Max shook their hands, as he sized the two boys up. Felix was the second-born son of Regis and was completely unlike Marcus. A dedicated practitioner of his sword arts, he was famed for being a proficient warrior and a man with a temperament just like his father. At just 16 he was already tier 3 and climbing through the power ranks fast. Lucius on the other hand was just 14, but he was undoubtedly the most menacing of all Aurelius' brothers. A wicked face that oozed smartness and wisdom, a lean physique that only had muscles where he needed them like his father, and rough calloused hands alongside a shiny body full of scars, testament of the hellish training he underwent daily. There were no public records of his strength, however. It was rumored he was as strong as his brother while being 2 years younger. A true monster. "The pleasure to meet you is mine," Max said as he tried to remain cordial despite his urge to punch Lucius in his smart face. "I have to thank you, Captain. You have helped me depose my brother, even though he was a wastrel. My father favored him to be the next king. It was a shame, however, your thrashing of him on Mar-a-Lago changed his mind. I must say, you have a beautiful girlfriend. I can see why my brother fought you for her," Felix said as he eyed Asiva and made whistling gestures. It was clear to Max that the other party was trying to get a reaction out of him, and although he was slightly enraged looking at the setting around him and knowing that Regis Aurelius was sitting not even 30 meters away, Max kept his calm. "I had no idea the man I was fighting was the young prince. If I did, I would have never raised a fist against him," Max said as he discredited the praise from Felix. Max knew that gods had superhuman hearing abilities. Even though it seemed like they were not paying attention, they could hear even the slightest whisper in the room if they wished to. Hence he needed to monitor every word that he said in the room, because Regis might be listening in. My, how thoughtful of you, Captain. You sure are a tactful man," Lucius said in his half-boy, half-man-like voice that all men go through before puberty. Max could not wrap his head around what annoyed him about Lucius so much, but something about him irked him to no end. Maybe it was his hairless face, maybe it was his boyish voice, or maybe it was his defiant eyes that screamed, "I'll kill you first chance I get," that irked Max, because he could feel it in his bones that the other party's intentions were certainly not friendly. "So tell me, Captain, how did you manage to take down a fort all by yourself?" "I'm training against tier 4 opponents myself, but I can only take on 3 of them at a time. But you took on 11 alongside thousands of troops and still managed to annihilate them all, while destroying a fort. You are exactly the warrior I aspire to be," Felix said as Max gave him a fake bright smile. The boy could fight against 3 tier 4 opponents, which were sure to be elite warriors if they were sparring with him, which meant that he was at par if not better than Max in combat at this stage of their paths. "Well, I have my means. If I reveal them then it won't be so useful the next time. I'm afraid, young princes, for the security of the Titus clan who I'm loyal to, I cannot reveal my methods." Max replied diplomatically as Felix and Lucius returned his fake smile right back at him and assured him that it was all right. To any outsider watching, it looked like a cordial conversation between young men. However, Max knew he had met his match after the short conversation with the two princes. The two of them were smart, dedicated and vying for the same throne that he was. Unlike Marcus, they were nothing like spoiled young masters who could be riled up and controlled easily. Their future clash was inevitable and they were opponents that Max definitely needed to watch out for. // This bonus chapter is sponsored by patron Alcat_Gaming. Please thank him in the comments for this one // Chapter 306 The Calm Before the Storm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Regis arrived, one after another his cronies started filling the banquet hall. A lot of military officials from the Aurelius clan alongside a lot of high-ranking officials from the other clans entered the banquet, and it got really lively really fast. Max could almost not keep up with who all were present and who was talking to who anymore, as there were easily above 400 people in the banquet room. These were all the very uppermost echelon of the vampire society, and they were all gathered under one roof today. Once the wine and food started to be served at full speed, some bold single women started to approach Max to talk to him about his future endeavors and his bravery, as Max found those conversations the most weird. The upper-class women flirted very oddly with Max. They laughed at everything he said regardless of whether or not the things Max said were funny. They touched his arms frequently and tried to flash their brightest smile in front of him. Although the women were undoubtedly extremely beautiful, Max was not into these types of girls who had never picked up a single weapon in their entire lives and whose only focus in life was pursuit of artistic and spiritual truths. Max was a thoroughbred warrior, and his choice in women was robust. He needed to be able to trust and respect his woman enough to have his back in battle if need be, to be able to sleep beside her in peace. While he was clear about his taste and did not take any flirting seriously, Asiva was soon by his side looking extremely jealous as she hugged Max's left arm and gave a clear signal to every noble woman eyeing Max that he was already taken. Max found this behavior to be extremely cute, as he did not push Asiva away at all but rather held her hand tight, affirming to her that he was indeed only interested in her. Although it was a small gesture, it brought a big smile to Asiva's lips, who had a proud look plastered all over her face for the rest of the night. Max had little appetite, so he hardly took a bite or two of the delicious food being served. However, the other guests seemed to enjoy the food oozing with blood quite a lot. What Max was interested in was the fire he had started regarding the wrongdoings of the Aurelius clan on the front lines, as the only conversations he involved himself in were conversations regarding that topic. "I wish Severus was here, his hearing would be a big boon in this setting," Max whispered into Asiva's ears as Asiva smiled but did not reply for a while. Just like Max, Asiva had figured out that every whisper they spoke today was being overheard by gods, and it was dangerous to utter a single word that could be used against them. "Well, Patriarch Sam is here if you need anything," Asiva said as she tugged Max's arm to turn him towards Sam. St. Maximus, who despite standing 40 meters away from the duo raised his glass towards them from apparently having heard their conversation. Max rolled his eyes and smiled back at Sam. Of everyone present here, the St. Maximus clan was the only true ally Max had, as if his head ever rolled for being exposed as a primordial vampire. The St. Maximus were sure to follow for creating him. Just when Max was about to walk up to Sam to greet him, Vega came looking for him as he said, "The king will see you now, follow me." Max left Asiva's arm as he walked behind Vega to finally have a one-on-one conversation with Regis Aurelius. Max's heart raced with every step that he took. However, he was not afraid of talking to Regis, just extremely excited. When he eventually reached the stage, Regis threw him a nonchalant glance as if he did not care about his existence at all. Even if he hated Max to his core, Max could not see it in his eyes at the moment, as Regis's acting was truly exceptional in this aspect. As he reached the stage, Vega began clanging his spoon on his wine glass as he gathered the full attention of the hall towards the stage where Regis Aurelius, his wife, Vega and Max were standing. Here everyone. I truly hope all of you are having a wonderful evening. I'm not sure if you have tried the soup made from bloody eyeballs of goblins yet, but you all ought to try it. I think the chef did an exceptional job with that dish. The Queen has personally praised it, so I think that's the greatest compliment that the dish can ever receive," Vega said as the audience started to giggle and discuss the delicious soup. "That aside, let's hear a round of applause for our frontline hero, the man who single-handedly broke the deadlock on the frontier planet of Mar-a-Lago, the reason behind this celebration tonight, Captain Raven," Vega said as he began clapping with everyone in the hall following, as even Julian Caesar clapped for Max and his contribution for the vampire community. While it felt good to be praised, Max was only interested in Regis's reaction, and that man did not clap at all. staying as expressionless as before. Due to Captain Raven's bravery, we might solve the crisis on Mar-a-Lago for once and for all, as we now have 3 new frontiers open to us for warfare that haven't been accessible to us since the last several decades. If reports are to be believed, we can win the whole planet in 6 months' time. Vega said as the crowd went absolutely wild from this news, as there was enthusiastic clapping and a few whistling noises from amongst them. Before I announce the reward from the Titus clan towards Captain Raven and the Vampire King decides his, I'm sure all of you are curious about how exactly the captain achieved this remarkable feat, so I'll let him take the floor and narrate his tale. Vega said as he signaled for Max to start the real show. /////A/N. Bonus Chapter 1 out of 10 for the beautiful support shown by you all last month in helping me reach 9th position on GT rankings ////. Chapter 307 The Storm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I'm sure all of you are curious about how exactly the captain achieved this remarkable feat, so I'll let him take the floor and narrate his tale. Vega said as he signaled Max to take over. Max felt goosebumps all over his skin when it was his turn to speak, as while he had spoken multiple times to his underlings at the army, it was the first time he was addressing a crowd full of gods and powerhouses. Well, I joined the Titus clan military not long ago with one clear goal in mind, which was to serve our people by fighting on the front lines. Ever since I heard that we have been fighting for the control of the 3 frontier planets with the barbarians for over 200 years now, I felt my blood boil as to how us vampires, who are twice as smart as those knuckle-headed barbarians, are unable to win 3 planets from their hands. I agree, barbarians are strong, they are a force to be reckoned with in 1 versus 1 battle, but us vampires are not to be underestimated either. A little strategy and some guts was enough for me to outsmart the Northern Fortress barbarian leader, as I wiped the Northern Fortress clean of barbarian occupation in about 3 months since assuming office as captain, Max said, as although he did not intend to pause with his speech, some enthusiastic fangirls began clapping in the crowd and soon everyone else followed, forcing Max to take a pause. After the Northern Fortress's win, the morale of my troops was high. They wanted to taste blood, they wanted to fight for the freedom and glory of the vampire nation. However, as a captain I had only a limited number of troops under my command and a responsibility to patrol and control a certain area. After the area under my control expanded with the capture of the Northern Fort, I became thoroughly understaffed, as while the passion inside me was boiling high, my troop request that I made to my superior regarding the nay. Cough cough cough. Max was speaking normally, when suddenly he felt an unbearable itchiness inside his throat, forcing him to start coughing violently, as he soon felt himself drenched in sweat from an indescribable pressure. Every clan leader in the room knew exactly what was going on, however, nobody had the guts to say anything. Regus Aurelius had apparently decided that Max was speaking too much nonsense and needed to be intimidated, as he used his aura to cause slight problems for Max. While coughing on the floor, Max turned to face Vega, who showed a face of concern but did nothing to offer support to Max, as he slightly nudged his head towards Regus's direction. Max turned to look into the eyes of the Vampire King, as he looked down on Max with fury and hatred, as for the first time he let some of his inner emotions slip. The message to Max was loud and clear: shut up or be prepared to face the consequences. As only when Regus felt that Max had suffered enough and had been intimidated properly did he let go of the pressure. Someone bring fresh blood for the captain, seems like he's choking on that goblin soup, Regus eventually said, as within seconds Max was offered a tray filled with fresh blood from different organisms. Max chose a glass filled with vampire blood, as he drank it down in one gulp before getting back to his knees and giving Regus the same fake smile that he gave his sons as he said, "Thank you for your concern, my king." Vega's eyes widened in surprise at this comment by Max, as he could hear the audible sarcasm underneath it. As Vega looked around, everyone seemed shocked that Max had the spine to say this to Regus's face, as everyone expected him to shut up and change his story after this close-range intimidation session. If it were the old Max, he probably would have felt extremely intimidated and buckled from all the pressure, but the reincarnated Max had been through enough pain and suffering to build a backbone strong enough to handle any form of intimidation. Max's resolve was ironclad, and since he promised Vega to put on a show, he was going to put on a show irrespective of how Regus Aurelius would react to it. As I was saying, my request for reinforcements was rejected by the major above me, and the official letter said that it was because of lack of personnel. I was heartbroken to know that we were so severely understaffed at the borders that we did not have necessary troops to push back against the barbarians, so I decided to risk it all and go for the glory myself, as although I knew that going into that fort alone was nothing short of suicide, I felt that dying while giving my all for the vampire nation was better than living like a dog under the barbarians, Max said passionately as he stirred the entire crowd and forced Regus to smile a big smile. Regus was pissed. He had publicly threatened the kid, yet the boy gave him no face whatsoever and defied him in front of every major clan present. If Regus truly wished for it, he could kill Max with a flick of his finger, but that would be grounds for the Titus clan to declare open rebellion against the crown for disrespecting the Red Velvet. It was the perfect political storm for Regus, as despite being the monarch and having the power to silence this upstart captain, he was forced to hear and praise him in silence because of the strong bureaucracy of the vampire community. I hate to interrupt you here, Captain, but something about your words doesn't add up for me. The frontline planets are not understaffed. Every clan has a fixed quota to send to the frontlines as troop reinforcements, monetary aid and supplies. Whether it is men, money or resources, we have abundance of them on all frontier planets. May I see the official letter sent to you by your superior? Something about such claims is fundamentally disturbing, Sam St. Maximus said as he voiced the concerns which everyone had in their hearts but did not have the guts to say. Right here, Vega said as he pulled a letter out of his inventory while giving Regus a cheeky smile. The cat was finally out of the bag. ///////A/N. Chapter February 10th, A Long Way to Go Still Enjoy. /////. Chapter 308 Decisive Boldness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This letter is indeed authentic, and it's signed by one of the majors of the Aurelius clan. I'm sure there must be a very sound explanation for this, because I sure as hell did not send 240,000 young St. Maximus clan warriors on the frontier planets in the last 4 years itself, losing 160,000 of them to read this bullshit report. Sam said as he glared towards Denver Aurelius, the right-hand man of Regus and the supreme general of all border forces. Sam did not have the balls to glare at Regus directly, but his henchman was not out of the question. Watch your tone, Sam, you might lose your head over it, the loyal dog Julian Caesar said as he instantly came to the Aurelius clan's rescue, drawing his sword as he prepared to engage Sam. You won't be disrespecting my guests at MT Banquet, Julian, or I will bury you here, Vega said immediately as he drew his saber and prepared to engage Julian if need be. The things inside the room quickly came to a boiling point as the gods drew arms against each other. Enough. Regus said as he stood up from his seat and assessed the situation. This was precisely the mess he did not want himself to be involved with, as he already had headaches about the growing influence of the Titus clan. However, such allegations were sure to turn more clans away from the Aurelius banner and join the Titus ranks. Present the letter to me, I assure you justice will be served, Regus said as Sam respectfully handed over the letter to Regus, who threw it away after glancing at it once. Denver, report the border statistics for us. How many troops do we have on Mar-a-Lago total? Regus said as he tactically framed the question to ensure that everyone felt that he was doing a just investigation. My king, previously there were 7 open fronts of battle, and we had about 3 million troops stationed on the planet total. 1.6 million were border patrol troops, prepared to engage in active combat, and 1.4 were reserve troops that did mining operations, intelligence and other non-combat operations. At any given moment we hold 200,000 reserve troops ready to be deployed at any battlefield that needs immediate support, which is why this claim that we are understaffed is truly outrageous. Denver reported as his answer suggested that he was completely unaware that such a letter had been sent. So we are not understaffed, so why is this official letter stamped by an Aurelius clan major saying we are? This reflects poorly on our military and our clan's integrity, Denver. Some might even be bold enough to say that we are deliberately keeping the conflict on the border planets alive based on this proof. Regis said as he directly voiced the hidden concern everyone had in their hearts. Outrageous. Such claims are nothing but a disgrace. I'm sure nobody. Denver said as he started his performance when out of everyone present, Max decided to interrupt him. General. Respectfully, I would like to ask you a question, please. Max said as he raised his hand, interrupting Denver's words as Vega could not help but cover his smile. He had not expected the boy to show such guts. May I? My king. Max asked Regis as one could see Regis seething under his nose. However, having excellent restraint over his emotions, Regis signaled Max to ask a few questions. Who is responsible for the forces on Mar-a-Lago? Max asked Denver, knowing the answer fully well. It would be General Diaz from the Aurelius clan. Denver replied, not understanding where Max was leading with this question. If I'm not wrong, all 3 planets have had Aurelius generals for the past 200 years, no? Max asked, again knowing the answer fully well. Yes. Denver said, raising an eyebrow. Respectfully, General, if none of them have made tangible progress over the last 200 years, it reflects extremely poorly on their performance. Within 3 months I was able to push back the barbarians on a battlefront that was deadlocked and deemed impossible for decades. In my personal assessment of the battlefield, at least on Mar-a-Lago, it's an easy win for our race under capable leadership. Max said as his statement brought pin-drop silence across the room. Max had made a direct allegation at the Aurelius clan's capability, and everyone was shocked out of their senses to see his guts. Are you implying we are incompetent, Captain? Denver asked Max in a dangerous tone as he let his Tier 6 aura flare a little. It was a rhetorical question. Nobody thought Max would reply, but he did as he said, yes, I think those currently in charge definitely are incompetent, and by the looks of it also corrupt. Vega bursted out laughing as he could not believe his own ears. The boy had bigger balls than an orc. Vega hated his impudence when he argued with him, but he was absolutely in love with his aggressive and fearless demeanor now. That's enough, boy, not a single word more from you, Julian said as he pointed his sword at Max now. Regis was stumped. Max had completely ruined his plan to redeem the Aurelius clan's honor, as there was no way to get out of this situation without him punishing someone. It's fine, Julian, the boy speaks the truth, Regis said as he reluctantly agreed with Max's assessment in public to save face. In war only results matter, and it's true that the Aurelius clan generals have not been able to get the results our people deserve. Maybe it's time to change the leadership structure. Retire our generals and let the top 3 clans send one of their own. Maybe that will bring the necessary results for our people, Regis said as Denver looked at the monarch wide-eyed. The system established by Regis gave merits to all clans for participating in border security. The position of the top general brought the maximum merit points, and if the Aurelius clan let go of those positions, in the end, even if the vampires did win the planets, the control of the rich resources of the planet would fall into the hands of the other clans, while the Aurelius clan would make a huge loss. After everything they had done over the centuries, if they did not get the biggest piece of the pie on Mar-a-Lago, it would be a terrible waste. //A/N Chapter 3 out of 10, we are slowly getting there, enjoy. // Chapter 309 Reluctant Rewards. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Max had forced the king's hand into making a huge loss-making decision, and Denver Aurelius was undoubtedly irked by it. If this were not a social setting of the highest order and the Titus clan protecting Max, he would have chopped Max up into a million pieces by now, but because of the circumstances he had to stay quiet. I assure all you clan leaders present here today that I will investigate the major responsible for sending this letter personally, and I will bring him to justice after the investigations have been completed. Nonetheless, today is not about the offenders but the heroes, so let's focus on the captain here. To show my appreciation for his contributions, I will let him pick his own reward today. Ask me for anything reasonable, and I shall grant your wish, Regis said as although he hated every word coming out of his mouth, he needed to keep the show going on and pretend to be magnanimous in front of all clan leaders present. This was Max's chance to embark on his true journey towards the crown, as he respectfully dropped to one knee and said, "My king, as a man before I ask anything for myself, I must provide for my loved ones. I'm currently in love with the daughter of the dead clan leader Lord Cole Paradis's daughter Asiva Paradis. She was destined to become a lady, however, one fine day the Kingsman clan launched an unsanctioned attack on her father where Will Kingsman killed Lord Cole in an ambush. Asiva had to flee and ever since that day she is waiting for her chance to have revenge. I promised her that I will do my best to win a chance to reclaim the lands that belong to her family and get back her birthright for her. So today, I request you to allow me to wage a war against the Kingsman clan and claim the lands my girlfriend lost in the attack." Max's request stirred the emotions of everyone in the room. The Paradis clan was not an especially strong clan, with Lord Cole only being a tier 5 warrior, however, he was well liked and had many allies. Many mourned his tragic death by the ambush of the Kingsman clan, hence they secretly supported Max when he asked this request. It was a request that was extremely reasonable as Max did not ask for anything materialistic but rather only asked for an opportunity to wage a war against the offender of his girlfriend on moral grounds. Even if Regis wanted to reject it, he had no grounds to do so, nor did he really care if Max was successful and became a minor lord. Having no reason to object, Regis said, "If that's your wish, it shall be granted. I shall sanction this war and acknowledge whatever result it might bring." Max bowed politely in front of Regis and so did Asiva from the crowd, as many girls became extremely jealous of Asiva for having a boyfriend like Max who thought more about her than he did for himself. Instantly Max's popularity in their hearts skyrocketed even higher as they felt like he had just become an even better catch. "Very well, if that's your request then the Titus clan rewards you with 100,000 tier 1 troops, 100,000 tier 2 troops, 50,000 tier 3 troops and 400 tier 4 experts for your cause. They will be given on loan for a period of 3 years where their salaries will be paid by the Titus clan for the first year and by you for the next 2, Vega said as he graciously increased the reward he was initially going to give Max because of the bold performance he gave at the banquet. Vega's declaration caused a lot of murmurs to erupt within the crowd as people wondered why the patriarch was giving such huge help to a minor captain, and if there was a political motive behind his pledged help. From the start it was odd that he hosted a red velvet banquet for someone as insignificant as Max, however, now he was truly going over the top by providing such robust aid. With Will Kingsman dead and his territory already in shambles, such a strong force was a huge help to Max in his cause to free the territory. Half the army he needed for the job was already assembled. As the others discussed the motive of the Titus clan to support the newbie, Vega signaled his underlings to escort Max and his friends out of the banquet and to safety now. Max had already irked a lot of people today and Vega did not want him to lurk around making offensive comments until the camel's back finally broke. Which is why he wisely removed Max from the equation. As Max reached a private room, Asiva threw herself in his arms as she gave him a passionate kiss before starting to sob in his arms. Ever since her father died, she had died 100 deaths whenever she saw her beloved territory and palace be controlled by the idiots from the Kingsman clan. Now after almost 3 years she finally had the chance to get a proper revenge. Revenge for the death of her father, revenge for the humiliating imprisonment that the Kingsman clan forced her to undergo for Marcus and revenge for making her life a living hell for the past 3 years. While she knew that Max had his own ambitions mixed within this demand, it did not change the fact that he was doing this for her as well. In Asiva's heart, today was the day she completely submitted to Max and decided to become his woman without any doubts or reservations. ////A/N. Chapter 4 out of 10, we are only getting warmed up. This chapter also concludes the banquet scene as we will now transition into the proper journey of Max trying to become a lord. Hopefully you all enjoyed it ///. Chapter 3:10 Practical Challenges. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ugh, you give me a huge headache boy. I'm a patriarch for God's sake, I'm not your errand boy. How do I know what you will do with my army without a base for operations? Go figure it out yourself. Did you not flaunt your incredible connections in front of me? Go use them, and then send me the address within the next 2 days if you want my troops. Otherwise forget about them, Vega said to Max as he could not believe his ears when Max told him he did not have a base ready to station 250,000 troops. Vega was in an exceptionally good mood after the banquet, as he achieved everything he wanted to in that evening. Mar-a-Lago was now under the Titus family control and a new general was set to assume office after 48 hours, and with the deadlock broken on the planet, if everything went well he would become the majority stake owner in most of the rhodium mines on the planet. It would bring him hundreds of billions of gold coins yearly, massively boosting the Titus clan economy and help him reach the number 2 spot in clan rankings. After brutally humiliating Regus in front of all clan leaders, Vega slept the best night's sleep he had done in over 10 years, however it was ruined by Max's idiotic yapping in the morning. Vega was ready to make good on his promise of lending 250,000 troops when Max told him that he did not have a base of operations yet and hence needed Vega's help for the same. Vega, being in no mood to cater to Max's needs, brushed his request off by plastering his own words back at him, as he gave Max 2 days to get his affairs in order. Max began walking back towards his room dejectedly when he heard Vega's shout from behind, "Boy, get those love bites on your neck treated on your way out of my palace, your girlfriend is a wild one to bite you so hard." Max was embarrassed by this comment as he tightened his robe to hide his neck. Vega's analysis was spot on, he did indeed have a wild night yesterday with Asiva and she did go crazy on him. Max had made many powerful enemies yesterday at the banquet, and while now he had a better understanding of the vampire society as a whole, he also realized that no one in the entire vampire community right now had the balls to call Regus out on his face or stage a rebellion. Despite being flawed, Max realized that Regus was actually a loved and respected king. Many were obedient to him for his power, but many were actually loyal to him and believed in his sense of justice. Regus was also very level-headed while handling issues and despite being a monarch knew when to not be driven by his ego. He was completely opposite to his brother who listened to no one and never compromised on his personal ego. Another key takeaway for Max was that the vampire throne was glued together by a strong bureaucracy, and despite Regus sitting at the helm, his powers and influence were not endless. Unlike Thor or Augustus One Knight who were supreme in their own kingdoms and who single-handedly controlled all the armies and law and order in their kingdom, Regus only controlled a fraction of the vampire kingdom's military while the lords under him controlled a major part. It was for this reason, Regus could not afford to act recklessly and risk a rebellion as he alone could not actually hold the entire vampire kingdom alone. As a king, this made his influence weak, but as a kingdom it made the vampire kingdom the strongest of them all. Just as he was thinking all this, he found himself back at his room where he was surprised to see that all his friends had gathered. "So how'd it go?" Sebastian asked as although he had figured out the answer from Max's lost face, he still asked to be polite. "We need to figure out the base problem ourselves. I'm thinking we can buy one planet or something from a weak clan for a few billion gold coins, or I need to go talk to Patricia One Night for help. I don't know, I'm out of surefire ideas about this, but we need to figure it out within 2 days, so, if you guys have any inputs please do share." Max replied as everyone sighed at the news. The group had a quick brainstorming session together where they discussed potential ideas and in the end they made a short list of the 4 best ideas they had. 1. Anna talked to her big sister and father for help, and they lent the group a temporary base of operations. 2. To get Severus to request Sam St. Maximus to let them use Green Soil Planet, the covert St. Maximus planet where Max was turned into vampire and which was destroyed by his brother in a fight with Sam as their temporary base. 3. Sebastian to go meet with a classmate of theirs back at the university for nourishment of young talents whose father was in the planet acquisition and selling business. 4. Max to head over to the True Elite's kingdom and try his luck with the current god ruler and his brother's good friend Neatwit. Since the group had a time limit and were on a tight schedule of 2 days, they could not afford to explore all 4 paths one after another, so they decided that the 4 of them split on one path each and then met again after 1 day's time to decide which path was the best option for the group. Hence, the group parted ways, teleporting out of Xander to different corners of the universe in search for a base for their future operations. /////A/N. Chapter 5 out of 10, we are halfway there. 5 more to go, enjoy you all. //////.